Hello class and welcome to Module 18. This is your last module for the Python Programming and ArcGIS class here at Miami. This is just going to be your final overview for a module with new content. This module is going to focus on transitioning away from the feature tools into the raster tools. And I feel like this is an important module to include in this class because there are some fundamental differences with how the raster tools work than how the feature tools work, which makes sense because the two data models are fundamentally different themselves. So like always, you'll find a brief description of the module here. Read through that and a brief list of the objectives for the module. Your learning resources, again, it's going to be for Canvas in the textbook. Specifically, we're going to be in Chapter 10 of your textbook. And go ahead and create that Module 18 folder, just like you've done for all of the past 17 modules throughout the semester. For our quick walkthrough, I just want to introduce the things that you're going to be seeing. The first is raster data basics. So there are some basics of raster data that I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about. Some of you in this class have had Intro to GIS and Advanced GIS, and some have only had Intro to GIS, which is fine. Both classes cover raster data. I know in my class, in the advanced class, I might talk about it and use some different terminology than maybe what you've seen in your intro class. So this is just a way for us all to be on the same page and to talk about the really important pieces of raster data that are important to understand moving forward within our ArcPy scripts. So you're going to watch a short little video here that's going to go over the raster basics, and what's going to happen next is that you're going to move on to Chapter 10 of your textbook. You're going to read through Chapter 10 and do the book activity. I really like the way he has parsed out the book activity. You do lots of little things in short little codes, short little snippets, and you learn how to do individual little tasks that are good practice for what our activity is going to be for this module, which is going to kind of string together a project. It's going to still be a guided scripting experience, so I'm still calling it an activity. It's not an assignment where you have to figure out the code structure on your own. But these little snippets are going to help you just be familiar and be more comfortable with working with the raster module, and also give you some additional ways to describe your raster data that we won't necessarily do in a workflow project that does a spatial analysis. So go ahead, and here I've provided you with the PDF for the exercise from the author and his data package that's zipped. You need to go in, unzip it, and get it all structured properly like you have throughout the whole semester. And then what you need to do is just be prepared to turn in all of your scripts with the image of their successful output in idle. You do not need to put in any of the, the required elements for scripts for the activities and assignments, which are the headers, the comments, the print statements, the try except blocks, all of those different types of things. You don't have to include those. You can just include exactly what he's told you to write, and you're going to put that in the script, and you're going to turn that in, and the landing page here for the submission is going to show you the laundry list of things. Now, don't let this scare you. Each of these codes here is about maybe 4 to 6 lines of code long. It's very short operations that you do, and he just has you do it in short snippets and save them out individually as their own scripts as opposed to putting it into a larger script. So you'll want to turn in these 5 scripts, these 5 output images that are tied to these scripts. And then you also do, for the last 2 scripts that you write, they're actually going to produce a raster output. So I want you to open up ArcPro and pull in those output data sets and take a screenshot of it for me and go ahead and turn those in as well. Notice I'm not requiring you that you change the names of these to be your ID. You can just, however you're saving them in the exercise, that's fine. Just when you're done with it, it should be pretty easy just to upload it all as long as you've been taking pictures of your output along the way. All right, after that, we're going to come back and we are going to go through a series of small videos about how to best work with raster data in ArcPy and in ArcGIS for scripting out analysis pathways tools. So those scripts that have a workflow where you're maybe stringing some things together to solve a problem. So this first one is that we're going to cover the environment settings that are common in ArcGIS for raster data. We are not going to cover all of the environment settings in ArcGIS, just those most common ones for working with raster data. Then you're going to go through another video where you are going to get a discussion about the spatial analyst extension, the spatial analyst tools, and also this concept of the raster object, which was addressed in your textbook. So we're going to talk about it a little bit more. It is the way that the raster tools, they return this raster object, and then you have to figure out how to work with the raster object, which is just using the save method on it in order to save that particular output as a permanent data to disk. And then finally, we're going to round this out with a guided walkthrough of how to really use the help documentation beyond just syntax and example code. So you may not have ever scrolled all the way down to the help documentation, but down there's a lot of good information if you know how to interpret it and what it's meant to tell you. So we're going to talk about specifically the environments portion and the licensing portion of the help documentation within Arc Pro. All of this is getting you ready for your guided scripting activity for this particular portion of the class. You are going to be working with some data that's local to the University of Idaho and Moscow, Idaho. This is just an image, I think more currently from a drone that was taken of the campus. And then this is just a nice location map for you so you can see where Moscow is in the state of Idaho. Most people know where Boise is, so you can see that it's nowhere near Boise. This down here, desert and potatoes. This up here, rolling hills, wheat fields, and mountains. So very different than southern Idaho. All right, so in this activity, you are going to run through a list of objectives throughout the course of the guided activity. What you need to do is download the zipped data package and unzip it within your Module 18 folder. And then you also need to download the raster activity document. In that document is going to be your description of how you're going to walk through your script. So very similar to what you've seen on the Canvas pages, but I have places where I want you to provide answers. So you're going to also turn this back in. So you'll see that there is in this document places that are highlighted in yellow. And those questions that are highlighted in yellow, you need to answer. And then what you're going to do, what you're going to turn in from this final scripting activity is you're going to turn in your script. You're going to turn in a screenshot of your output from IDLE or from whatever IDE you are working with. Also a screenshot of your Arc Pro window. So in the activity, you're going to be told what to load into Arc Pro and take a screenshot of. And then you also need to turn back in the Word document that you downloaded for the assignment and filled in all of your answers. So those 4 things get uploaded for this particular activity. All right, the last thing I want to say is that moving throughout the semester, we've always told you, make sure you close Arc Pro before you run any of your tools. I will say that some of the vector tools are not real picky. Sometimes those vector tools will run if Arc Pro is open and your data is even in Arc Pro. However, the raster tools are not going to be that nice about it. The raster tools get very angry if another program is holding on to that data set. So if you ever are running into a persistent error that you can't quite decipher, first of all, reach out to me, I'll help you. Second of all, the first thing you want to make sure that you do is that Arc Pro is closed on your computer. Even if the data isn't being actively viewed in a map or you're not selected on it in catalog, sometimes just the in-memory of what's been happening in Arc Pro is enough to kick your scripts into an error mode. So just close out of Arc Pro and hopefully that clears everything out of the memory so that you can move forward. And then the last thing for this week, as always, this is probably your last dancing snake. He's standing here to say congratulations, well done. And then remember what you're going to be working on for the final 2 weeks of the semester. And for that finals week is those final scripting projects. So make sure that you're circling back to that module to see what's required of you in that particular section. So as always, ask questions and enjoy being in the world of raster for 1 week.